Captain Jack Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, watching the empty space beyond the viewport. His crew worked quietly at their stations, checking systems and monitoring sensors. Today was supposed to be historic, humanity's first official meeting with the Zarathi, an advanced alien species from the Andromeda sector. "Sir, the Zarathi ship is approaching," announced Lieutenant Emma Lewis from her console. "They're requesting permission to beam aboard." Jack nodded, straightening his uniform. "Permission granted. Have Security Team Alpha meet them in transporter. Room 1. The bridge crew watched as a sleek silver vessel appeared on their screens. It was beautiful, all smooth curves and glowing panels, making the Liberty look like a relic from a museum. Jack had to admit human ships weren't as pretty, but they got the job done. Down in the transporter room, 6 figures materialized in a shower of blue light. The Zarathi were tall and slim, with silver skin that seemed to shimmer under the ship's lighting. They had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on their elongated faces, and 6 fingers on each hand. Their leader, Ambassador Velox, stepped forward with fluid grace. "Welcome aboard the USS Liberty," Jack said, extending his hand. Velox looked at the offered hand with confusion before one of his aides whispered something. The ambassador then grasped Jack's hand awkwardly, clearly unfamiliar with the human custom. "Thank you, Captain Morrison," Velox said, his voice melodic but with an electronic undertone from his translator. "We are curious to see your vessel." As they began the tour, Jack noticed the aliens exchanging amused glances. When they passed the weapons lockers in the corridor, Velox actually laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. "You still use projectile weapons?" he asked, pointing at the rifles secured behind glass. "How quaint. The Galactic Council hasn't seen such primitive technology in millennia." Lieutenant Emma Lewis, who was helping with the tour, clenched her jaw but kept her voice professional. "These weapons have served us well, Ambassador. They're reliable and effective." The Zarathi delegation found this even more amusing. One of them, introduced as military attaché Krell, tapped the glass with his long fingers. "These fire metal projectiles, yes? How barbaric. Our plasma rifles can vaporize targets instantly, leaving no mess, no waste." Jack led them to the bridge, where more Zarathi laughter erupted at the sight of physical switches and manual controls. "You don't use neural interfaces?" Velox asked, genuinely surprised. "How do you operate efficiently without direct mind-to-machine connection?" "We prefer to keep our minds separate from our machines," Jack replied calmly. "It's safer that way." The tour continued to the weapons bay, where the real mockery began. Commander Ryan Scott showed them the ship's main armaments: railguns, missile tubes, and point defense systems. The Zarathi were beside themselves with amusement. "Metal slugs and explosive chemicals," Krell scoffed, examining a torpedo. "Our children play with more sophisticated toys. A single Zarathi cruiser could disable your entire fleet with our quantum destabilizers." "These torpedoes pack quite a punch," Commander Scott said, trying to maintain dignity. "They're simple, but they work." "Simple indeed," Velox agreed, not hiding his condescension. "Tell me, Captain, when will your species evolve beyond these antiques?" Jack smiled politely, though his crew could see the tension in his shoulders. "We believe in using what works, Ambassador. Sometimes the old ways are still the best ways." The Zarathi found this philosophy hilarious. They spent the rest of the tour pointing out every primitive aspect of human technology, from the backup generators to the emergency fire suppression systems. "You still use chemical extinguishers?" one alien scientist asked incredulously. "We haven't needed those for 10,000 years. By the time the tour ended, the human crew was thoroughly humiliated. The Zarathi made no effort to hide their sense of superiority, treating the humans like children showing off their crude drawings to adults. As the delegation prepared to return to their ship, Velox placed a patronizing hand on Jack's shoulder. "Don't worry, Captain. Once your species joins the Galactic Council, we'll help you upgrade to proper technology. These relics can go in a museum where they belong." After the Zarathi beamed away, the bridge was silent. Emma finally spoke what everyone was thinking. "Arrogant bastards. Jack stared at the departing alien ship, a slight smile on his face. Maybe, but something tells me they'll learn to appreciate our primitive weapons soon enough. He had no idea how right he was. The next morning, Captain Jack Morrison prepared for the weapons demonstration. The Zarathi had insisted on seeing human military capabilities in action, though their intentions seemed more about entertainment than genuine interest. In the ship's main training hall, Commander Ryan Scott had set up various targets and weapon displays. The human crew moved with practiced efficiency, checking equipment and preparing for the demonstration. The Zarathi delegation arrived precisely on time, their silver robes flowing as they glided into the room. "Welcome to our weapons demonstration," Jack announced. "We'll show you the full range of human military technology." Ambassador Velix's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture Jack had learned meant amusement. "Please proceed, Captain. We're quite curious to see how your historical artifacts perform." Ryan stepped forward, picking up a standard-issue assault rifle. "This is our primary infantry weapon. It fires 7.62mm rounds at a rate of 750 per minute. He shouldered the rifle and fired a short burst at a target, dummy 50 meters away. The bullets tore through the target's center mass with precision. The Zarathi erupted in laughter. Krell, the military attaché, wiped tears from his lower eyes. "You propel small pieces of metal using chemical explosions? How wonderfully primitive." "These pieces of metal are highly effective," Ryan replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "They're reliable in any environment and can't be jammed by electronic countermeasures." "Countermeasures?" Krell scoffed. "Why would anyone bother? Our plasma rifles can melt through your strongest armor before you could even aim those relics." The demonstration continued with shotguns, sniper rifles, and sidearms. Each weapon was met with increasing derision from the aliens. When Ryan showed them a combat knife, the Zarathi nearly fell over laughing. "You still use bladed weapons?" Velox asked between chuckles. "Do you also fight with rocks and sticks?" The tension in the room was building. The human crew watched their guests with barely concealed anger. Emma Lewis gripped her clipboard so tightly her knuckles turned white. Then disaster struck. Ensign Danny Parker, a young officer fresh from the academy, was helping to clear the weapons when he accidentally dropped a loaded magazine. It clattered to the floor, spilling bullets across the polished deck. The Zarathi exploded with laughter. They pointed and gestured, making comments in their own language that didn't need translation. Danny's face turned bright red as he scrambled to pick up the ammunition. "Look at them," Krell wheezed. "They can't even handle their primitive weapons properly, and these are supposed to be warriors?" Jack moved to help Danny, placing a steadying hand on the young man's shoulder. "It's all right, Ensign. Accidents happen. But the damage was done." The Zarathi's mockery had reached new heights. They took images with their recording devices, clearly planning to share this embarrassment with their people. "Perhaps we should show you our weapons now," Velox suggested, his voice dripping with condescension. "Let us demonstrate what real military technology looks like." The aliens produced their plasma rifles, sleek chrome devices that hummed with energy. Krell aimed at a reinforced target and fired. A beam of brilliant blue light struck the target, instantly vaporizing a perfect circle through 3 inches of steel. "You see?" Krell said proudly. "No recoil, no ammunition to carry, no noise. Just pure, efficient destruction." "Impressive," Jack admitted. "But what happens if your power cells run out, or if someone disrupts your energy field?" Velox waved away the concern. "Those are problems for lesser species. Our technology is perfect, unlike your bullet throwers." As the demonstration ended, the Zarathi prepared to leave. They'd recorded everything, no doubt to share with the Galactic Council as evidence of humanity's backwardness. "Thank you for the educational display," Velox said. "It's been most enlightening to see how far your species still has to evolve." After they left, the training hall fell silent. Danny Parker looked ready to resign on the spot. "I'm sorry, sir," he said to Jack. "I've embarrassed us all." Jack shook his head. "No, son. You've done nothing wrong. The Zarathi may laugh now, but I have a feeling they'll learn to respect our weapons soon enough." Ryan Scott approached, still holding the rifle. "Permission to speak freely, sir?" "Granted. Those arrogant bastards are in for a rude awakening. Fancy tech is great until it fails, and it always fails eventually." Jack nodded, looking at the scorched target. "Keep the men ready, Commander. Something tells me we'll get a chance to prove our point sooner than anyone expects." Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the pride and prejudice of the beings who traveled among them. 2 days passed without incident. The USS Liberty and 3 Zarathi vessels traveled together toward the Galactic Council headquarters. The mission seemed to be going smoothly, despite the obvious tension between the two species. Jack sat in his command chair, reviewing reports when the alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed as Lieutenant Emma Lewis shouted from her station, "Captain, multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace. They're not responding to hails." The view screen filled with the image of 12 heavily armed ships. They were ugly, asymmetrical vessels covered in weapons and armor plating. Jack recognized them immediately. "Draknor pirates," he muttered. "Battle stations." The Zarathi ships responded first, their elegant forms turning to face the threat. Brilliant beams of blue energy lanced out from their weapons, striking the lead pirate vessel. The energy splashed harmlessly against its shields. "Sir, the Zarathi are engaging," Emma reported. "Their weapons seem effective." But then something changed. The pirate ships released a wave of golden energy that spread across space like a net. As it passed over the convoy, every screen on the Liberty flickered. "What the hell was that?" Jack demanded. "Some kind of dampening field, sir," replied Chief Engineer Mike Davis over the comm. "It's interfering with all energy weapons. Our shields are holding, but barely." On the view screen, the Zarathi ships had stopped firing. Their weapons ports glowed weakly but produced no beams. The pirates moved in like sharks, sensing blood. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Zarathi flagship," Emma announced. Ambassador Velix appeared on screen, his usual arrogance replaced by fear. "Captain Morrison, our weapons are non-functional. We cannot defend ourselves." Jack allowed himself a grim smile. "Having trouble with your perfect technology, Ambassador? This is no time for petty satisfaction," Velix snapped. "They're launching boarding pods. We need assistance." Jack watched as dozens of small craft detached from the pirate ships, heading straight for the defenseless Zarathi vessels. He turned to his weapons officer. "Commander Scott, status of our weapons?" Ryan checked his console. "Energy weapons are down, but kinetic systems are fully operational. Railguns, missiles, and point defense are all green. Target those boarding pods. Fire at will." The Liberty's railguns spoke with thunderous authority. Solid projectiles, accelerated to incredible speeds, tore through space. The first wave of boarding pods exploded in brilliant flashes as the kinetic rounds found their marks. "Direct hits," Ryan reported. "Their shields can't stop our projectiles." The pirates seemed confused. They'd expected easy prey, ships disabled and helpless. Instead, they faced a vessel whose weapons couldn't be neutralized by their technology. "Sir, several pods have attached to the Zarathi flagship," Emma warned. "They're being boarded." Jack stood up. "Prepare boarding teams, full combat gear." He turned to his security chief. "Sergeant Turner, get your Marines ready. We're going over there." Katie Turner grinned fiercely. "Yes, sir. Time to show these aliens what primitive weapons can do." In the armory, Marines suited up in traditional combat armor and grabbed assault. Rifles, shotguns, and plenty of ammunition. Danny Parker, still smarting from his earlier embarrassment, was among them. "Remember," Katie addressed her troops, "their fancy energy weapons won't work in that dampening field. But our guns will work just fine. Stay sharp, watch your corners, and show these pirates why humans are still in the fight." The Liberty maneuvered closer to the Zarathi flagship, while continuing to pound the pirate vessels with railgun fire. Several enemy ships were already listing badly, atmosphere venting from multiple hull breaches. "Ambassador Velix is reporting. Multiple pirates on board," Emma relayed. "They're heading for the bridge. The Zarathi security forces they're using their rifles as clubs, sir." Jack shook his head. "Of course they are. They never considered what would happen if their weapons failed." He activated the ship-wide comm. "Boarding teams, prepare for launch." Let's go save our arrogant friends. As the assault shuttles launched from the Liberty's hangar, Jack watched the battle unfold. The pirates had made a critical mistake. They'd brought technology to a gunfight. "Sir," Ryan called out, "the remaining pirate ships are trying to retreat." "Negative," Jack ordered. "Target their engines. I want prisoners to interrogate." The Liberty's missiles streaked through space, conventional warheads slamming into the pirates' engine sections. One by one, the enemy ships went dead in space. The Zarathi flagship, the real battle was about to begin. The assault shuttle shook as it approached the Zarathi flagship. Inside, Sergeant Katie Turner checked her rifle one last time. Her Marines sat in 2 rows, weapons ready, faces set with determination. "Remember your training," she said over the comm. "These pirates won't expect conventional weapons. Use that surprise. Parker, you're with me." Danny Parker nodded, gripping his shotgun tightly. This was his chance to redeem himself after the embarrassing incident during the demonstration. The shuttle locked onto the Zarathi ship's airlock with a metallic clang. The boarding tube extended and Katie's team moved forward. The first Marine placed a breaching charge on the inner door. "Fire in the hole!" The explosion ripped through the door and smoke filled the corridor. Katie led the charge, rifle raised. 3 pirates stood in the hallway, fumbling with their energy weapons that sparked uselessly. The Marines opened fire. The bark of assault rifles echoed through the metal corridors. The pirates fell before they could even understand what was happening. "Clear!" Katie shouted. "Move up!" They advanced through the ship, following the sounds of combat. Around a corner, they found a group of Zarathi security personnel desperately fighting hand-to-hand with pirate boarders. The aliens were using their dead plasma rifles as clubs. Katie's team didn't hesitate. Controlled bursts of gunfire dropped the pirates in seconds. The Zarathi stared in shock at their human rescuers. "Where's your bridge?" Katie demanded. One of the Zarathi pointed with a shaking hand. 3 decks up, the pirates, and they've taken it." "Not for long," Katie replied. "Alpha team, with me. Bravo team, secure this deck." On the Liberty, Jack monitored the situation. More Marine squads were boarding the other Zarathi ships, meeting similar success. The pirates, so confident in their technology, were completely unprepared for bullets and grenades. "Captain," Emma reported, "Sergeant Turner has reached the bridge level of the flagship. They're preparing to breach." Katie and her team stacked up outside the bridge doors. Through the metal, they could hear Ambassador Velox pleading with the pirate leader. "Please, we'll give you anything, just don't kill us," Katie signaled her team. On 3, they blew the doors and stormed in. The bridge was chaos. Pirates held the Zarathi crew at gunpoint with conventional weapons, clearly backup arms they'd brought along. But they were poorly trained with them, unlike the human Marines. Katie shot the first pirate before he could turn. Danny took out 2 more with his shotgun. The remaining pirates tried to use the Zarathi as shields, but the Marines were too quick, too precise. In less than 30 seconds, it was over. The pirates lay dead or wounded on the deck. Ambassador Velox stared at the humans with his 4 eyes wide in disbelief. How did you—" "Training and proper weapons, Ambassador," Katie replied, reloading her rifle. "Sometimes the old ways work best." Similar scenes played out across the Zarathi fleet. Human Marines cleared ship after ship with brutal efficiency. The pirates, who had relied on their dampening field to neutralize their victims, found themselves facing an enemy whose weapons were immune to their technology. Back on the Liberty, Jack received reports of success from all boarding teams. The pirate attack had been completely repelled. "Sir," Ryan reported, "the dampening field is dissipating. Energy weapons are coming back online." "Too late for the pirates," Jack noted with satisfaction. Status of the Zarathi fleet? Minor damage, no critical systems affected. Casualty reports are coming in. Mostly minor injuries among the Zarathi. No human casualties. Jack nodded and opened a channel to the flagship. Ambassador Velox appeared on screen, his silver skin pale with shock. "Captain Morrison," he began, then stopped. For once, the arrogant alien seemed at a loss for words. "You're welcome, Ambassador," Jack said simply. Velox's head bowed slightly. We were wrong. Your weapons, your tactics, they saved us all. Technology fails, Ambassador, but physics is forever. A bullet works whether your fancy gadgets do or not. In the background, Jack could see Zarathi crew members watching the human Marines with something approaching awe. The same warriors they'd mocked days ago had just saved their lives with primitive weapons. Perhaps, Velox said slowly, we have much to learn from humanity after all. Jack smiled. Perhaps you do. Liberty out. As the channel closed, Jack turned to his bridge crew. They were all grinning. Sometimes the best lessons were learned the hard way. Lieutenant Chris Baker led his squad through the corridors of the second Zarathi vessel. The emergency lights cast strange shadows on the silver walls, and the sound of distant fighting echoed through the ship. Stay alert, he whispered to his team. These pirates are getting desperate. They rounded a corner and found a group of Zarathi civilians huddled in a storage room. Among them was what appeared to be a family unit, 2 adults and 3 smaller beings. The aliens looked up in terror as the humans approached. It's okay, Chris said, lowering his weapon. We're here to help. One of the Zarathi adults stood up slowly. You are the humans? The ones with the primitive weapons? Private Lisa, Morgan stepped forward. That's right, and these primitive weapons are about to save your lives. How many pirates are left on this level? The Zarathi thought for a moment. 7, maybe 8. They were trying to access our computer core. Show us, Chris ordered. As they moved through the ship, more Zarathi joined them, seeking protection. The aliens watched in amazement as the human soldiers efficiently cleared each section, their bullets proving deadly effective against the pirates. They reached the computer core to find 3 pirates frantically working on a console. They had managed to get their energy pistols working again as the dampening field weakened, but they were too slow. Lisa's rifle cracked 3 times. 3 pirates dropped. The fight was over before it began. Back on the Liberty, Dr. Sarah Mitchell was explaining the situation to a group of Zarathi scientists who had beamed over for safety. Energy weapons rely on complex systems, she said, drawing diagrams on a screen. Power cells, focusing crystals, field generators, any of these can be disrupted. But kinetic energy? A bullet will kill you just as dead today as it would have 1,000 years ago. The lead Zarathi scientist, Varix, nodded slowly. We never considered. We thought such weapons were obsolete. Nothing is obsolete if it works, Sarah replied. Your people forgot that simple doesn't mean ineffective. Meanwhile, Commander Ryan Scott was coordinating the final phase of the counterattack. The pirates, realizing they were losing, tried to escape. But human tactics, developed over centuries of warfare, proved superior. Box them in, Ryan ordered. Don't let a single ship escape. The Liberty and the Marine-controlled Zarathi vessels formed a perfect trap. The pirates found themselves surrounded, their technology useless against old-fashioned military strategy. On the bridge of the flagship, Ambassador Velox watched the human Marines work. Katie Turner was directing the cleanup operation, her team, moving with practiced efficiency. Your soldiers, Velox said to Jack over the comm, they fight like professionals, Jack finished. Like people who understand that fancy toys don't win battles. Training and tactics do. Velox's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. Captain Morrison, I must apologize. We mocked your weapons, your technology. We called you primitive. But today your primitive methods saved thousands of Zarathi lives. Apology accepted, Ambassador, Jack replied. Maybe now you understand why we keep the old ways alive. As the last pirate ship surrendered, reports came in from all vessels. The Zarathi fleet was secure. Human casualties, 0. Zarathi casualties, minimal. Pirate casualties, significant. Danny Parker, who had been fighting alongside Katie's squad, found himself surrounded by grateful Zarathi. The same beings who had laughed at him days ago now looked at him with respect. Your weapon, one of them asked, pointing to his shotgun. May I examine it? Danny smiled and cleared the chamber before handing it over. Sure, it's not fancy, but it gets the job done. The Zarathi handled the shotgun with newfound reverence. Simple, reliable, effective. We were fools to mock this. Across the fleet, similar scenes played out. Zarathi crew members asked questions about human weapons and tactics. Marines demonstrated basic firearms handling to eager alien. Students Emma Lewis reported from her station, "Sir, we're receiving a priority message from the Galactic Council. They want a full report on what happened here." Jack nodded. "Tell them we'll be happy to explain, and Ambassador Velox will probably want to add his own observations." The tide had turned. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the old ways weren't just the best ways, they were the only ways that mattered when everything else failed. The conference room aboard the Liberty was packed. Ambassador Velox sat at the head of the table with his senior staff, facing Captain Jack Morrison and his command team. The mood had changed completely from their first meeting. "The Galactic Council is demanding answers," Velox began. "They want to know how a small group of humans defeated a Draknor pirate fleet that should have overwhelmed us." Jack leaned forward. "Simple. They assumed technology would win the day. We knew better." Dr. Sarah Mitchell activated the room's holographic display. "Let me explain in detail," she said. "The dampening field the pirates used is actually quite common in advanced warfare. It disrupts energy patterns, making plasma weapons useless." The display showed a simulation of the battle. The Zarathi watched intently as Sarah continued. "But kinetic energy, the force of a moving object, can't be dampened the same way. Our bullets kept working because they rely on basic physics, not complex energy fields." Military attaché Krell, who had mocked human weapons so thoroughly before, raised a hand. "But surely this is just one scenario. Energy weapons are superior in most situations." Commander Ryan Scott shook his head. "Are they? What happens in an ion storm? Or in areas with high radiation? What about when your power cells run dry?" Sarah changed the display to show various combat scenarios. "We've studied thousands of battles across human history. The most reliable weapons are always the simplest ones." A younger Zarathi scientist spoke up. "But the energy requirements for projectile weapons, the ammunition weight—" "Valid concerns," Sarah admitted. "But consider this. A single Marine can carry enough ammunition for extended combat. Can your soldiers carry spare power cells for their plasma rifles? And what happens when those cells are damaged?" The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Zarathi had built their entire military doctrine around advanced technology, never considering what would happen when that technology failed. Emma Lewis pulled up reports from the battle. "During the engagement, our Marines maintained a 94% accuracy rate with conventional weapons. The pirates, once their energy weapons failed, dropped to less than 20% effectiveness with their backup arms." "Because they never trained with them," Katie Turner added. "They thought conventional weapons were beneath them, just like you did." Velox's skin flushed a deeper silver, the Zarathi equivalent of embarrassment. "We see now how foolish we were." "But what do you propose?" Jack stood up. "A new approach to military preparedness. The Galactic Council needs to understand that technological superiority isn't enough. You need backup systems, conventional weapons, and most importantly, proper training." The discussion continued for hours. The Zarathi asked detailed questions about human military doctrine, training methods, and weapons development. They were particularly interested in how humans maintained multiple weapon systems. "We call it redundancy," Ryan explained. "If one system fails, you have others ready. Never put all your trust in a single technology." By the end of the meeting, a new understanding had emerged. The Zarathi formally requested human military advisors to help reform their armed forces. "There's something else," Velox said as the meeting concluded. "The Galactic Council wants humanity to present these findings to the full assembly. They're particularly interested in your training methods." Jack smiled. "We'd be honored, Ambassador, but I have one condition." "Name it." "The foe. Next time you encounter a species using primitive technology, Remember this day. Don't mock what you don't understand. Velox bowed his head. You have my word, Captain. We've learned our lesson. Later, in his ready room, Jack received a private message from Earth's military command. They were pleased with the outcome, but warned him to be careful about sharing too much technology. Don't worry, Jack replied. We're not giving away any secrets. We're just teaching them what humans have known for millennia. Simple and reliable beats complex and fragile every time. Outside, the stars continued to shine, indifferent to the momentous shift in galactic military thinking that had just occurred. The age of energy weapon supremacy was ending. A new era of practical warfare was about to begin. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The most advanced species in the galaxy were about to learn warfare from the newcomers they had dismissed as primitive. Sometimes the greatest teacher was humility. 3 weeks after the pirate attack, the USS Liberty docked at the Galactic Council's massive space station. The gleaming structure floated in orbit around a neutral planet, home to representatives from over 100 species. Captain Jack Morrison adjusted his dress uniform as he prepared to address the full council. Beside him stood Ambassador Velox, a changed being from the arrogant diplomat who had first boarded the Liberty. Ready, Captain? Velox asked. As I'll ever be, Jack replied. Let's show them what really happened. The council chamber was enormous, filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Some floated in liquid-filled tanks, others perched on specialized seats, and many simply stood or hovered. At the center, the council elders sat on an elevated platform. Captain Morrison of Earth, the lead elder announced, her voice echoing through translators. The council has reviewed your report. The defeat of a Draknor pirate fleet by human forces has surprised many. Jack stepped forward. With respect, Elder, it shouldn't have. The pirates made the same mistake many advanced species make. They assumed their technology made them invincible. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several representatives looked offended, but Jack continued. The dampening field they used is a known technology. Any military strategist should plan for such contingencies. Humanity has always maintained diverse weapon systems for exactly this reason. Ambassador Velox stepped up. The Zarathi confirm this account. We were helpless when our energy weapons failed. Only human intervention saved our ships and crews. The elder nodded slowly. And you propose changes to council military doctrine? Yes, Jack said firmly. Every member species should maintain conventional weapons alongside energy systems. More importantly, they need proper training in their use. A reptilian delegate hissed in disagreement. Primitive weapons have no place in modern warfare, they tell. That to the Draknor pirates, Jack countered. They thought the same thing. Now they're in your prison cells, defeated by primitive human weapons. Dr. Sarah Mitchell presented her analysis to the council, showing battle recordings and tactical breakdowns. The evidence was undeniable. Human weapons and tactics had won the day. But the cost, another delegate protested. Maintaining multiple weapon systems, training for outdated technology. The cost of being unprepared is far higher, Velox interjected. The Zarathi nearly paid it with our lives. We formally request human military advisors to modernize our forces. This announcement caused an uproar. Other species began demanding similar arrangements. The council elders called for order. Captain Morrison, the lead elder said when quiet returned, your people have demonstrated remarkable capability. Will Earth agree to share this knowledge? Jack had been prepared for this question. Earth is willing to establish a military exchange program. We'll train your forces in conventional warfare, and in return, we'd like to learn more about your advanced technologies. It was a fair offer, and the council knew it. After hours of debate, they voted overwhelmingly to accept. Later, in a private meeting, Velox approached Jack. You've changed everything, Captain. The galaxy will never look at humans the same way again. Good, Jack replied. Maybe they'll think twice before calling us primitive. Over the next months, human military advisors spread throughout council space. Marines like Katie Turner found themselves teaching alien soldiers how to field strip rifles and throw grenades. engineers helped design hybrid weapons that combined reliability with advanced features. Danny Parker, promoted after his heroic performance during the pirate attack, led a special training unit. The young ensign who had once dropped a magazine in embarrassment now commanded respect from beings across the galaxy. The Draknor pirates, interrogated in council custody, revealed they had specifically targeted the convoy because they thought the Zarathi would be easy prey. They hadn't even considered the human ship a threat. Biggest mistake we ever made, their leader admitted during his trial. We thought humans were backwards, turns out they're just practical. As Jack prepared the Liberty for its return to Earth, he reflected on how much had changed. Humanity had gone from being dismissed as primitive to being sought after as military advisors. Sir, Emma reported, we're receiving requests from 12 more species for military exchange programs. Jack smiled. Tell them we'll consider all applications. Looks like humans are back in the teaching business. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate the power of simple, reliable technology, or the people who refuse to abandon it. 6 months later, the USS Liberty returned to Earth with news that would change human history. Captain Jack Morrison stood before the United Earth Council, delivering his report to the assembled leaders. The Galactic Council has approved full membership for Earth, he announced. But more importantly, they've requested we establish the first interspecies military academy. The room erupted in surprised murmurs. General Rodriguez, head of Earth's military forces, leaned forward. They want us to train their soldiers? Not just train, Jack clarified. They want us to completely restructure galactic military doctrine. The Zarathi were just the beginning. On the screen behind him, images showed the new academy under construction on Mars. Alien and human engineers worked side by side, building training facilities that could accommodate beings from across the galaxy. Emma Lewis, now promoted to commander, took over the presentation. The academy will teach integrated warfare, combining advanced technology with conventional weapons and tactics. We've already received applications from 47 species. The first class of cadets arrived 3 months later. The red Martian landscape was dotted with beings of all shapes and colors, each wearing specially designed training uniforms. Among them were Zarathi, including Ambassador Velux's own offspring. Lieutenant Colonel Katie Turner served as the Academy's chief training officer. On the first day, she addressed the assembled cadets in the main courtyard. Welcome to the Interspecies Military Academy, she began. You're here because your people recognized a fundamental truth. Technology alone doesn't win wars. Strategy, training, and preparedness do. The training was intense. Alien cadets learned to handle human weapons, study military history, and practice tactics developed over thousands of years of human conflict. In return, human instructors learned about advanced technologies and alien combat philosophies. Danny Parker, now Captain Parker, led the weapons training division. He often told the story of how he had once dropped a magazine in front of mocking aliens. Now those same species sent their best soldiers to learn from him. The universe has a sense of humor, he told his class one day. 6 months ago, they laughed at our bullets. Now they're begging to learn how to use them. The Academy's influence spread quickly. Reports came in from across the galaxy of pirates and raiders being defeated by newly trained forces using hybrid tactics. The combination of advanced technology and conventional weapons proved unstoppable. Dr. Sarah Mitchell established the Strategic Studies Department where species shared their military knowledge. Ancient Vraxian battle manuals were studied alongside human military classics. Krithari swarm tactics were adapted for modern warfare. A year after the Academy opened, the Galactic Council held a ceremony to honor Earth's contribution to galactic security. Jack Morrison, now Admiral Morrison, accepted the award on behalf of humanity. We didn't set out to change the galaxy, he said in his speech. We just refused to abandon what worked. Sometimes the old ways complement the new ones perfectly. Ambassador Velux, now a close friend and ally, approached Jack after the ceremony. You know what amazes me most? He asked. A year ago we thought humans were primitive. Now every species wants to be like you. Not like us, Jack corrected. They want to learn from us. There's a difference. The academy continued to grow. New buildings rose on the Martian surface. Training programs expanded to include diplomatic security, disaster response, and peacekeeping operations. Ryan Scott, promoted to Rear Admiral, took command of the Council's new rapid response fleet. Mixed force of ships using both advanced and conventional weapons. Their motto, always ready, always reliable. In the Academy's museum, a display case held two weapons side by side, a Zarathi plasma rifle and a human assault rifle. A plaque beneath read, "The day the galaxy learned that new doesn't always mean better." As Jack watched another class of cadets graduate, he smiled at the irony. Humanity had reached the stars not by abandoning their past, but by embracing it. They had taught the galaxy that true strength came from being prepared for anything. Sometimes, he told the graduates, the most advanced solution is admitting that the simple one still works. Never forget that lesson. The stars above Mars shone brightly, witnessing the birth of a new era, one where wisdom trumped arrogance and where the combination of old and new created something stronger than either alone. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not as primitive newcomers, but as teachers of a timeless truth. What works, works, regardless of how old it is.